2025 New York mayoral election primary. We should be live right now, just getting started. About 15 minutes from poll closings. Starting right on time. Welcome aboard. Hopefully everything is working, the audio, the video. And we're here for another one. Should be an exciting, contentious battle. It's kind of a local election, but it's a massive, major city. Top of the hour, we're going to should have some kind of results, but who knows when we're actually going to get the final total with ranked choice voting and such. But there's Bernie Sanders in the chat. I knew he'd be here. Regular viewer, hello, Swinger, Dorito. Love to see the people early in on the stream. So yeah, we got about a warm up here of 15 minutes. Rando, hey, back in the chat, I see. Nice to see you. So this is it. This is the big event. This is what we've got. We did New Jersey a couple weeks ago. Last week was technically Virginia, but that was more so for Lieutenant Governor, Attorney General. It was close, but this is what we've got. This is pretty much it until November. It's kind of an off-year election. But we're doing a stream. We're doing one. So we'll be here for a few hours. This is a big battle here. Kind of up in the air which way it's going to go, but everybody's got their own opinion. We've got multiple streams pulled up. That's how you do it. I remember doing that. You pull up a couple streams, maybe the major networks, NBC, CNN, Fox, whatever you're into. But yeah, this is really come down to Cuomo and Mamdani. Covered the race, put out a video this morning. Been following the polling for months. And probably a couple years ago, yeah, this would have been unexpected. Cuomo, Mamdani. But Eric Adams, who is technically on the ballot, he's not going to be winning another term here as mayor unless there's some sort of crazy write-in campaign in November. That's not totally out of the question anymore, but for right now, we're looking at Cuomo and Mamdani. We've got polling, we've got the betting markets, and we can refresh. Cuomo is at 62 on predicted on Polymarket. This is in the general election. It's going to be Cuomo at 49, Mamdani 35. So one for the primary, one for the general. Now, when it's that close, really anything could happen. I mean, if you go all the way back, I mean, it looked like Cuomo had it in the bag. This was in late May, less than a month ago. But everything changed. Big surge for Mamdani. Then he bounced back, Cuomo, and then a lot of lead changes here the past day. It's been really back and forth. Nobody's going to be feeling too confident about that. Yeah, I'm predicted here. Yeah, Cuomo, it looked like he was at 90 cents. So it's tough to say who's going to win this thing. Usually I would default to the establishment candidate winning because it's hard to underestimate the establishment. But you never know. Maybe there's that late energy with Mamdani. He's not being captured in enough of the polling. He was leading in a couple, including that Emerson poll. In fact, here are the polls, the recent ones. And That's the first round. In the final round, Emerson has Mamdani up 4. Maybe they're an outlier. Maybe they know what they're talking about. The other ones seem to be favoring Cuomo, but be aware of some of these sponsors. Yeah, it should be an interesting one here. I mean, this is just if you're into politics, you're going to want to follow this race. Now, I haven't super closely followed it, but of course, it's getting national attention. Major city, why not follow it at least a little bit? Yeah, there's always going to be some random swings on the markets. They get spooked by new polls and news that comes out. But I agree that sometimes they matter. Yeah, sometimes they don't mean anything. I always say take a look at it, but it's just one piece of the puzzle. So it is going to be a full ballot. A lot of candidates here, but most of them have no chance. So we're going to be looking at multiple rounds here, and then that could take a while to count. That's the thing. We might not get that result we want. It says here ranked choice tallies expected next Tuesday if necessary. So it could go on. But again, welcome aboard, everybody, again to another stream. Maybe you were here 2 weeks ago for New Jersey. This could be, I'm not sure if there's going to be another one between now and November, but we've got it going right now. Let's see what we've got as far as the community goes. There's also a community hangout. Yeah, Mamdani was leading with white and Asian voters, and Cuomo had black and Hispanic voters. Weird dynamics. Election polling official. Nice to see you. Have I read the New York Times voter advice article? I don't think so. I don't know what kind of advice they'd be giving out, but I mean, I've got updates here if we want to follow what's going on. So we've got some things to cover here. You hope neither Cuomo or Mamdani wins, unfortunately. Yeah. Again, something crazy could happen with a write-in attempt in the general election. I mean, we saw that with the Buffalo mayor a few years back, but that was a write-in campaign because the more progressive candidate won. But in the end, the establishment came back in the general election and actually won with that write-in campaign. So everything is on the table here. And they got the temperature here, 95 degrees. So it's a hot one. But there's been early voting, so shouldn't be any excuses for people not able to cast their ballot. Yeah, hopefully we get a lot of repeat viewers that were here for the New Jersey stream, as well as the other ones. The general election last year, all the primaries, we covered a lot of them. We didn't do a stream for every one last year, but we did it for maybe 2/3 of them, I'd say. And Cuomo will narrowly win the first round. Okay, Mamdani doesn't surprise me with the Asian vote. All right. Yeah, I guess if you break down the Asian vote into more detail, which they don't do, I haven't seen that, but that could be interesting. New York Times endorsement historically means a lot. Was there actually an endorsement? I may have missed that. but we'll see what happens. So first round does look like it would favor Cuomo. That looks pretty likely, but he's not going to hit 50. He'd be lucky to hit 40, I'd say, according to the polling. But sometimes these primary polls, they could be missing a slice of the electorate. I heard Atlas Intel. I thought they were going to do a poll for this. Maybe I missed it again, but I'm not seeing it. They might be the new highly regarded pollster in a post Seltzer world. You might be looking at Atlas Intel. So we're about 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes here from poll closing. So I'm psyched up for this. Turned out to be much closer than expected. A month ago, it looked like, yeah, if the election was a month ago, Cuomo almost certainly would be the mayor. But look what could happen in a few weeks. That's why I always tell everybody, wait until we get closer to an election. You just have to do it. Sometimes things don't change, but enough times they are going to change. Can Lander win by a miracle? If you're betting on Lander and he wins, that'd be a huge payout. Curtis Sliwa, yeah, he's the Republican. He unopposed. He was the nominee last time against Eric Adams, but it wasn't even close. The days of Giuliani and Bloomberg as a Republican, those are over, at least for now. So Sliwa, a repeat nominee. Very unlikely to win, but we'll have to just see what happens. Let's see. Open the page for Kalshi on Andrew Cuomo's first round margin. Is that if it's right here, if it's accessible, if it would help if it's at the top here. If it's not, I might have to forego taking a look at that page, but minute and a half to go. Again, sure, everybody has their busy schedules, work, school, family, all that stuff. Important. But if you're into live streams for politics, here we are. So we've got New York Times going. There's also a couple of special elections in other places. I've got those up here. There's a New Hampshire House seat, Florida House, and that's a primary. And then Alabama and another Florida Senate primary. So we'll see if anything happens there, maybe, but the main event is going to be right here. Let's see. Any last minute changes? Cuomo looks like he has, I'd say this is kind of a lean margin. It's close. A little bit more than a tilt. 63-43. I'd say it looks like Cuomo, if this correlated into actual results, maybe Cuomo would win by 3 or 4 points, something like that. Again, I haven't really made an official prediction here, but if I had to, I guess I'd have to go with Cuomo. I mean, that's what most of the polling shows, except for Emerson. And again, the establishment, it's hard to underestimate them. All right, well, looks like the polls have closed. Hopefully something pops up here. because we don't want to sit here and wait. We want to know what's going to happen. Well, yeah, the heat, it is hot there, that's for sure. There's been a heat wave, but hey, there's early voting. You know, they've had some time to vote. Bill de Blasio, yeah, he did not endorse, I guess. I heard former Governor Pataki came out for Curtis Sliwa in the general. So if the Pataki endorsement has any weight to it, you let's see. You want to like Mamdani? You don't think he'd make a good mayor? Utterly unqualified. Yeah, there's a lot of different takes out there. There's all of them. Mamdani is unqualified. He's too young. He's too extreme. Cuomo is just too corrupt, too much baggage, way too moderate. So somebody's going to win, though. Um, yeah, Eric Adams probably not a chance. Adams, it's been a weird story with Adams the past couple of years. It seemed like he went from being too, I guess, too moderate, too friendly with the police. Then he's had those moments where I know that he's been combative with some constituents. There's the results just popping in. Got 410,000 votes. Mamdani, 43. Cuomo, 34. Lander is at 13. And then Adams got a ton of baggage of his own where he got indicted and then he seemed to cozy up a little bit toward Trump, maybe to hope for a pardon. Maybe he changed a little bit on some of the immigration policy. There's a lot of different narratives out there, but ultimately his popularity totally cratered, and it seems like Republicans were not a fan of him before, and now they're not really going to be a big fan of him. So he has a super low popularity. So let's see here. Mamdani is in the state assembly representing Queens, so he's pulling in 45 there, and Cuomo easily ahead in the Bronx, and a little less so Staten Island. That is 38% of the vote. So technically, Mamdani just 6.9% away from clinching that 50% threshold. But we've got a lot of candidates to eliminate here. You know, even if you get eliminated and you got less than 1% of the vote, I guess that's more than any of us have done, getting a couple thousand votes for mayor of New York. But yeah, that is, these people have really no chance, I guess. Cuomo is that big name that got in. 3-term governor. That's quite the resume. But then the scandals are, there's a lot of them. So it's kind of interesting to see Cuomo come back down, take a lower office, more local, New York City, after being the mayor for 10 years or so for stepping down. Um, Mamdani wins, Democrats will start to embrace a bit of economic populism. National Democrats or local Democrats? Actually, the city council is having a election as well. Here we go. Got that up here. Well, I think it all depends on the specific policy, but usually establishment politics doesn't change that quickly. They tend to think that they need to double or triple down for several elections before they make some changes. But again, it depends on the specifics. Because there's always the cultural, the social stuff aside from the economics. And then there's a huge range of economic things and policies and issues that a lot could depend on how you frame the policy and the specifics. All right. So big vote dump already, but now it could be, who knows how slow it's going to be. Uh, let's see. Oh yeah, let's see. What happened with those markets? Is that gonna, yeah, that's gonna probably help Mamdani here. Yeah, looks like it. The markets are doing the same thing we're doing. They're looking at the results. Sometimes they're wrong, even with an 80% chance in some of these races, even 90. Occasionally, you'll get some. Sometime the market is just a complete wipeout. Cuomo, similar to John Carney in Delaware. Yeah, Carney. Yeah, I guess he went down, became mayor. Um, yeah, it's rare, but kind of a demotion because after governor, feels like that's kind of the top of the mountain, unless you're going for the Senate or for president. Let's see. Well, yeah, I mean the vote dump. It's the markets that helped Mamdani in the markets, but vote dumps. The initial vote dump is always kind of can spook everybody because there's early vote tabulation, there's all that stuff, and it all comes in at once. And then I assume we're looking at same day, election day voting trickle in. So knowing what's going to happen and which vote was counted at which point, I think sometimes it can be misleading that initial dump. But the ranked choice is going to probably drag out the process. I know there's a lot of debate about ranked choice. I think there are some advantages, but there's going to be a disadvantage of having additional time. And hopefully people filled out their ballots correctly. But anytime you have to make more than one decision, I think that's going to increase the chances of people leaving it blank or a little bit of confusion. Now, I'd like to see a later runoff with Mamdani and Cuomo, just those two. I think that would be something to see, maybe in another month or so. But this is all action for the Dems. Republicans have their nominee chosen, Curtis Sliwa. He's just sitting back and he's watching the action. He's got his popcorn. Jeb. If that's Jeb Bush, hey, maybe he's in the write-ins. Let's see. Yeah, the second round, I don't know. I mean, take a look at the polling. And yeah, we've got Emerson showing Mamdani up 4. I did cover that poll in a video this morning, and that was surprising. I mean, Emerson, I guess, regarded as fairly neutral and not a terrible pollster. So we'll see if they're actually right or not. All right, here we go. A little bit more. Cuomo, slight gain there, about 3/10 net. Okay, the Bronx is lagging a little bit behind here, and that's where Cuomo seems to have his biggest lead. They've only got 29% in. It's about 10% less. Let's see. What does that do for the markets? Mamdani takes the lead by a little bit here. Okay. Let's take a look at Poly Market. And Mamdani for the general election, 47. Cuomo, 39. Pretty early, but everybody's sweating this one out. It would be embarrassing for Cuomo if he lost. 3-term governor taking a loss in a major city after, that would be embarrassing. It's not going to be a huge shock if Mamdani wins because that's all everybody's been talking about the past couple of weeks. But that would be a big political upset, I'd say. It'd be a political earthquake taking down Cuomo. But I don't think anybody really said Mamdani has no shot at this, so it wouldn't be completely unexpected. Uh, let's see. Yeah, there's some vote here for Cuomo in the Bronx, but hey, the markets, I assume the markets have looked at this and they're thinking Mamdani has a tiny edge. Let's see. JB Pritzker, Illinois. Yeah, I put out a post. He is running for a 3rd term, it looks like. It's a big deal. No term limits, 3 terms. A big guy for a big race. Uh, the Zoran run on Working Families Party if he loses. I don't know. I think it's all about the margins. But yeah, that's, let's see. Polling underestimated or overestimated Mamdani or underestimated him. Yeah, I've been thinking about that. I would tend to think it would underestimate him. But then you get into things like maybe it underestimated Cuomo because people more likely to respond. Maybe they're going to be younger. Maybe they're going to be more for Mamdani. Maybe his support is overestimated. Maybe older voters who are more prone to go for Cuomo, a little less likely to want to do the polling, or maybe it's the total opposite. Older voters more reliable, but could be harder to get a hold of. I mean, there's a whole lot of different things you could kind of spin this into. But I guess I would think Mamdani would be underestimated a little bit more. Oops. Yeah, we're all just kind of going by the polling and such, and maybe somehow it's not really that close in the end. I mean, Cuomo with the establishment connections, he got the Bill Clinton endorsement, if that means anything. I don't know how many of those types of voters there are, but maybe they do come out on election day and they put Cuomo in a comfortable position. I haven't really paid attention to the ads either and what's been going on the ground there. Heard a little bit about some ads, some controversy with Cuomo, and I heard it got a little bit ugly, which is understandable. But I'm not really sure the specifics how they've really ran their campaigns. But it's hard to think Cuomo, the establishment candidate. I mean, if he loses, that would be a big blow for the establishment. Let's see. How's it going so far? Well, first of all, good to see you here, but pretty much initial vote dump. Mamdani has a lead here. Excuse me. He has a lead at 43%. Cuomo was at 34. But that's kind of it. Fourth district city council. Supposed to be close. Yeah, I do have that up here. Here it is. That is extremely close. Kind of looks like last week with Virginia, lieutenant governor. That was a crowded 3+ candidate race. Okay. You think I'm as handsome as Mom Donnie in real life? Well, that assumes Mom Donnie is handsome. It's hard to say, but if that's what you think, certainly a compliment. I could accept that. Is Cuomo not handsome? Is he the opposite? How bad is it? It's hard for me to judge. I don't know. All right, well, 40% in. Looks like Cuomo went up just a bit. Still 29 in here in the Bronx, where Cuomo has his best margin. But I would guess the election day vote, I probably should look into this. Maybe Dave Wasserman or somebody's talking about it. But the election day vote might favor Cuomo a little bit. But it's hard to say how energized people are at this race because a lot of times these primary races in cities just get terrible turnout. Seems like if you hit even 20%, that would be huge. Well, Mamdani he's from Queens. I guess that's enough for him to get some kind of a bounce. 47% in there. Both of them are conventionally attractive. Sounds good. Yeah, of course, there's a big age gap. Might be a little hard to judge things, but I hear you. What is this? Paperboy Love Prince. You know, makes me wish I actually paid attention to every one of these candidates because I'm just seeing this right now. I wonder how many of his votes is going to go toward Cuomo or Mamdani. Maybe they're just all in on Paperboy Love Prince. Zero transfer to the other candidates. Okay, we'll look at Manhattan here. Yeah, I know it's a deep blue city, you know. This isn't going to be where you're going to want to look for some Republican politics, except maybe in the city council. Could be a few seats there. And I suppose maybe you're pulling for Cuomo in this primary if you're looking for the slightly more Trump friendly candidate if you want to go in that direction. But then, of course, you've got the actual Republican in the general election, Curtis Sliwa. And 4 years ago, that was a close one with Eric Adams. In the final round, he pulled it out barely. All right, Cuomo gained 6 tenths. Mamdani gained 3 tenths. But how much did Paperboy Love Prince get? It's really all we want to know. He's not even in last place. Okay, here comes some more. 1/10 each for the top two candidates. All right, now the Bronx is up to 41%. It's like Cuomo, I think he went down 1%. Uh, let's see. Results of the Buffalo primary. I'll leave that to the comments because I'm not really sure. I do know that's supposed to be happening at some point. There should be a new mayor there. Okay, you're saying Mamdani will win. That's fair. The Sanders rallies have energized Mamdani voters. Probably a little. I mean, it's hard to say how much the rallies help. I mean, I know in the last election, Trump came in, did at least one rally, and then he had the Madison Square Garden thing as well, and he did really well, relatively speaking, in New York City. Now, if he didn't do that rally, would he have still had a big gain? Probably, but the rally probably boosts it just a little bit. But sometimes that's all you need. Yeah, Paperboy Love Prince. Can he get to 1,000? We'll see. Let's see. PLP. Does anybody know anything about this guy? You'd like to think that at some point in his life he delivered at least one newspaper and got paid for it. Legal birth name. Wow. Well, makes me more interested in looking into the background. That's something to talk about as the rest of the results come in. Extremely hard to Cuomo to win at this point. Oh, let's see what's going on in the markets. 66 Mamdani. Yeah, it's about the same on Poly Market for the general. So looks like Cuomo is floundering. He just narrowed the gap a little bit there by about 7/10, but he's already down by 8 points. So the markets are leading toward Mamdani. If it is Mamdani, the chances of some kind of a write-in campaign, they go up. Because yeah, I don't know if the establishment is just gonna, Cuomo and everybody else would just come out and say, "Well, congrats to Mamdani," and they're going to back him. I think they might. I don't know. It's tough to say. Then Mamdani, if there's a middle to run toward in this kind of a situation in a deep blue city, I guess he would probably run a little bit toward it. And then there's the general election. But it's so hard to imagine any Democrat not winning that by 30 plus points. But yeah, nobody really close to 50% here, so we're going to need to see some additional rounds. Same day vote coming in should benefit Cuomo. Well, yeah, I would consider that. But the markets are not indicating that. Wouldn't the markets also know that's the case? Lander, yeah, well, he made a name for himself getting arrested recently. I don't know how much that affected anything. Yeah, if it's Mamdani, yeah, I would think the Republican would go up a little, but 2, 3 points, not going to be a whole lot. But even if it's 7 or 8 points, but we're just kind of early still. 54% in. 78 in here in Staten Island. Cuomo ahead by 11 there. Kelsey has Mamdani at 85. Yeah, I guess, yeah, there's different market sites you could use. I try to keep it to, I prefer predicted, but I know they had a lot of issues with new markets and such. And then Polymarket seems to have taken over. And they might have too many markets, actually. But let's see. What is it at? 88. That looks overwhelming. I'm not shocked if Mamdani wins because, yeah, usually, Cuomo, once somebody falls from their peak, three-term governor, and then tries to come back, a lot of times it just doesn't pan out. You're kind of viewed as a has-been. But if it is Mamdani, yeah, I definitely want to see what's going to happen with all the establishment candidates. I'm sure Curtis Sliwa, the Republican, is pulling from Mamdani because his chances go from 0.1% to 1%, at least at this point. Oh yeah, it's always nice to see the establishment get humbled and take a blow on both sides. That's There is some satisfaction in that. But yeah, that could embolden more progressive candidates in other races. Uh oh, sorry, Bernie Sanders. I missed that earlier. You're getting off? No problem. If you're still here, we'll see you next time. Yeah, November is the likely next stream. Of course, that's so many months off. You never know what could happen in 4, 5, 6 months. So that would be the goal. There's always a chance there's something in between. But I know you're there for every stream. That's nice to see. But I missed another comment here about uh are we talking about Paperboy Love Prince? You looked up their Wikipedia page? I'm reading some of this out of order. I don't normally do that, but Cuomo could run in the general as a third party candidate. Yeah, but I don't know if that would really. He'd have to get Republicans support. Yeah, ranked choice. I wish we could get it all instantly. I mean, they do call it instant runoff, but it it could take a little bit of time. Yeah, 88 there, Staten Island. Okay. Yeah, there is a little bit of Republican support in this blue city. It's not totally insignificant either. You've got Nicole Maliotakis and you had um, George Santos before things kind of went bad for him. Uh, okay, the debate helped Mom Donnie. Yeah, there was yeah, Cuomo had a weak moment in that debate when he tried to challenge Mamdani on his experience, and then Mamdani came back with Cuomo's negative experience, his baggage. So that was a good moment there for Mamdani. Cuomo kind of wiped out on that one, but that was just one moment. Bob Kerrey, ex-senator from Nebraska, tried to come back in 12, got obliterated by Fisher. Yeah, there were some of those races where former governors came back and over the past 10 or 15 years, and it didn't pan out. Bob Kerrey, Nebraska, there's other ones. There's Tommy Thompson, Wisconsin, Evan Bayh, Indiana, Phil Bredesen, Tennessee. 62% of the vote in. Mamdani is ahead. Almost 44%. Cuomo at 35.4 in the first round. And the betting markets are going crazy here for Mamdani. It's at 94%. This thing wrapped up, if this is what it is, this was kind of an early night for this race. It looked like it might be neck and neck. And Emerson might be the winner here for the polling. If there's nothing from Atlas Intel, then Emerson could be looking pretty good. But, we've all seen Emerson. We've seen him get him right. And like any pollster, they've got a few misses. And also, whoever wins, it's tough to say exactly why. I mean, yeah, you could say maybe the rallies, maybe that debate moment, maybe the endorsements, but how much does it really matter? You're never really going to know. The only good news about it being an early night is we don't have to actually sit here for 4 hours and not know anything. Now, we might not get the final total here because, again, we could be looking at Tuesday. And actually, do have this poll here. I'm going to close that. Um, okay, 70%. Cuomo really. I do want to see that concession speech if that happens. There's the poll results. Looks like we're gonna get one day is the winner. 40%, 39%, 36 several days. I thought it could go on a while longer, but 161 votes. 8% think 2 weeks or more. But yeah, Cuomo's speech, I'm sure he's probably gonna, do some kind of congratulations. But what's going to happen over the next couple of weeks. All right, let's see what we've got here for updates. There are some other races here. Yeah, public advocate, comptroller. I haven't really followed these much, but hey, if you're from this area, you're definitely going to want to pay attention to these. And of course, the city council. So here is the latest updates on New York Times. Early in the campaign, this might be the key sentence here. Cuomo's team was eager to run against Mamdani. They felt his limited experience, progressive views, and criticisms of Israel would present a strong contrast with the experience of the former governor. Yeah, I, I can see why he would think that. That's what you would say. That's how you'd frame it. There's always a way to frame everything. And the Mamdani narrative was going to be Cuomo has the bad experience. He's loaded with baggage and scandals, and he's unqualified. And plus, his views, maybe they've been done before and not a lot of success. But here's the thing, what tends to happen in a lot of these big cities, maybe even more broadly, once leadership changes, it just kind of sinks. People are generally unsatisfied with whoever's in office. You know, in Los Angeles, they got Karen Bass. She was the more progressive candidate, and I don't think she has solid popularity. Last I heard, and it goes on. There's Chicago. There's Philadelphia. I don't think a lot of mayors have decent popularity. There's just a lot of challenges in these cities, and it's tough for people to actually feel a lot of satisfaction, regardless of who's in there. Okay, see any updates? Okay, Mamdani and Cuomo gained 0.1%. All right, some more updates here. It will be hard for Cuomo to catch him. Well, okay, let me get caught up here. Any good good comments? Oh yeah, also by the way, for anybody that's mildly interested, did finish setting up a Patreon finally in the last week. So if you're into supporting the channel through Patreon, I think some people have asked me about that over the last year or so. You could do so there. There's a few different options. $1 up to $10 if you feel like supporting the channel. You could also join the channel through YouTube, but now there's multiple ways in case people want to really feel compelled to support the channel. Always appreciated, of course. There's also the super chats, the super thanks during the streams. Whatever you're comfortable with. And just the normal viewing and the liking and the sharing, subscribing, that's all good stuff as well. Okay. Yeah, first round, 5 candidates. So a lot of these candidates are going to be eliminated here and have their vote reallocated into the other candidates. Um, that's how they do it. The Republican side, it's unopposed. But that's how ranked choice for works. You've got to get to 50% or over 50%. So this is the big moment. I bet Cuomo he's got to be dying right now, you know, metaphorically. Because yeah, Cuomo, he's not down by like 2 points. And Mamdani is six shy of 50. So in the subsequent rounds, yeah, the first few are not going to be that significant, but it does look like it's going to be tough here for Cuomo. Mamdani's at 98. Okay. Paperboy Love Prince. Buffalo Mayor. Not sure if that's actually could be on. Here we go. All the races here are on decision desk. Here's Buffalo Mayor, and that is extremely close. Three votes separating these candidates. I can't say that I've followed this, but I know there's going to be a new mayor here. 19% in. So that's something to take a look at. Let's go back here. And 77% of the vote in. So even if this wraps up, we've only been streaming for just under an hour. So I would at least do another hour, get 2 hours in, even if it wraps up. So we've got about 94 people in here. Again, nice to see anybody in here. If it's your first stream or your 10th stream, whatever. We try to stream most of the primaries. Can't do all of them, but if you're into smaller independent channels, well, this is the one for you then. But you probably got multiple streams open, and they're all showing one thing, and that's Mamdani, the more progressive candidate. He's in the driver's seat here, almost 44% in the first round. Cuomo, former governor Cuomo, under 36. Brad Lander, about 12%. And yeah, Eric Adams, the incumbent mayor, independent candidate. Curtis Sliwa, the Republican. So it's not completely. Now there's going to be more question marks about November. We saw what happened last time, previously in the Buffalo mayor's election, when that progressive candidate looked like they were going to win. The write-in campaign happened, and the establishment came back. Okay, the mayor of a relatively small city you live in isn't really even known by anyone. Yeah, I think when you get down to small cities, people don't really, might not even know who the mayor is. If you get really small, it could just be a local resident, super part-time type of gig. Might only pay a couple thousand a year, something like that. You get really into super small towns. But yeah, even in medium towns or cities or villages or townships, a lot of times local mayors races, they just don't get a lot of turnout. Not sure if there's any turnout numbers today yet, but I'd be interested to know what it is. I think I heard it was up a little bit, something like 8%, but that was a little while ago. Well, yeah, the polls, yeah, except for Emerson. But again, we got to see the final round. So yeah, I was thinking that Mamdani would be more likely to have his support underestimated, but it's hard to bet on it. Now it looks like betting on Mamdani is the easy choice, but I'd have to say this is embarrassing, like big time for Cuomo. I mean, this guy was the governor. Yeah, he stepped down, but 3 term and he won. He put up some huge landslides on his wins. Um, let's see. Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on which specific policies that these mayors run on. Of course, the mayor still has to contend with the city council. So who knows? Do you think Kamala Harris will run for governor of California? It's a great question, isn't it? I think about it, and I think it's tough. Nothing jumps out at me. It'd be nice if I had a strong inclination, but really don't. I think her taking the loss for president and then coming back to be governor, and we're talking about just running, not winning or going through a primary, but I don't know. I think I put a community poll on that out after she took the loss, if what her next move is going to be. I really could see it either way. I think it is kind of after running for president, you're the VP, you run for president, then you lose. And in a sense, it's sort of like Cuomo taking a step down and running for mayor. It's like there, if she does run, there's going to be competition, but she might not. She might think she could just bypass governor and just run for president again because she's got the name ID and she already ran. She's got all that experience and she could run as the out party. She could craft a better message this time, and then she doesn't have to deal with some kind of interim California governor stint where maybe she tries to run for president while she's in office for governor. That could get messy. But anyway, um, let's see. Anthony Weiner running for city council. I thought he was running for something, but I really haven't kept up with it. I was thinking about him a few minutes ago when I was talking about candidates that kind of collapsed and then tried to run. Because Weiner, didn't he run for mayor also? Like a few elections ago after he had his scandal. But let's see. Second district city council. Let's see. Oh, there it is. He's not even on the top three. That's man, Anthony Weiner. he was a lot of jokes about him. He had the scandal, and he has the name. You combine those two things, and there was just a ton of material there. But it looks like he's going nowhere here in this city council race. And there again, he's trying to even step down even further. City council? It was in the U.S. House. All right, let's see. Predicted. What do they've got? 97. So what happens here in the general election? Let's go back an hour. So now Eric Adams is higher than Cuomo. And that's what's going to happen. If Cuomo is done here in this primary, and Curtis Lee with a Republican, he's still under 1.5%. Actually went down. I think this is still a work in progress as we see what the results are here, the final results with Cuomo. Okay. Let's see. Let's get an update on any news. Adrienne Adams did not concede. She's not conceding with 4%. All right. That's whatever it is. Jumaane Williams giving a speech after defeating the it's hard to say some of these names. Don't want to butcher them, so ally of Eric Adams. Okay. Bunch of votes is still left to count. Okay. Try to get back to some of these comments. John F. Kennedy's grandson endorsed Mom Donnie. Okay, I'm sure, isn't there like 10 grandsons? I have no idea what it is, but there's got to be a bunch. More people watching than the political chatter. Okay, a channel with 18K. Well, how is that happening? Why are more people here than there? I'd really like to know, but I'll take it. More people here. 0 super chats again. Usually want to get one each time. There's time left. Usually somebody comes in with $2 or something. Somebody's always a hero most of the time. Jack Schlossberg's endorsement. I no idea about that. Uh, let's see. Okay, wish we could say voters are rejecting wealthy candidates. When will candidates be eliminated? Well, I guess they have to total everything up. And if nobody's at 50, then they've got to start eliminating and reallocating the candidates that have the lowest amount of votes. But that might not happen. Tuesday, if necessary. L. Smith had been elected at 28. Okay. Brandon Johnson's policies, difficulty, 22 out of 50 on his side. His approval ratings, that, well, I think they were in double digits. Maybe they were under double digits. I'm not sure, but they were absolutely rock bottom, like under 15%. And that's within the city too. It's gonna be tough for him to recover if he's gonna run again. Um, let's see. Trying to scan through these comments and can't read all these. There's a lot here. JFK, only one grandson. That makes me interested to look up more about Kennedy now. Uh, oh, that's the grandson. Okay, yeah, I still would not think that these. I generally think most endorsements really have little weight. I mean, we've seen a ton of them. We've seen Trump endorse people, goes nowhere sometimes. We've seen Obama come out, endorse people. And maybe it helps, but it doesn't seem to have a huge impact. I'm not a big endorsement guy, but yeah, I did. Yeah, okay. Yeah, the plane crash with Kennedy Jr. Interesting. I'm not up to speed on the Kennedy family tree. Outside of the two or three most notable people, really drops off for me. There could be other interesting primaries, but I'm not sure. Okay. Um, this is the end of Andrew Cuomo's political career. Yeah, I mean, what are you gonna do from here? Are you gonna run for city council like Anthony Weiner and then take another loss? I mean, there's always the right place and time, and you can have a political comeback. I mean, Trump did that. I probably bigger than anybody, but Cuomo at this point, he's not super old, but he's not as young as he used to be. And after this, yeah, I don't know what's left for Cuomo. But I mean, does he need to have anything? Three-term governor. He matched his dad, Mario, with three terms. Although he did take a loss for his fourth, so he served more time than Andrew. Why do you think Hogan lost? Well, it's such a blue state for a Senate race in a federal election, and Hogan did pretty well, but he's not going to be able to climb that mountain of U.S. Senate with a state that's going to vote so many points for Harris. I mean, he's the right guy for it, but not a lot he could do there. Well, it can't be called until they get to 50%. I I guess that's what they're waiting for. So, in the meantime, got some more community hanging out to do. If Cuomo comes out, gives a speech or something, or puts out a statement, yeah, I hope I can find out what that is. Here's the precinct map. Okay. Hello from Los Angeles. Well, thanks for being here. It's kind of the opposite end of the country. But yeah, there was a that big race there. Karen Bass. Okay. Yeah, Chris Cuomo, what's he up to? He's kind of doing his own independent media thing. Last I heard, I'm not sure if that's going on still. But yeah, those two, yeah, I remember they were kind of scratching each other's backs during COVID. Chris Cuomo interviewing Andrew, and you know, what are you gonna expect though? They're brothers. I'm assuming they're gonna back each other up a ton. Mamdani's view on Israel hurt him a bit. I mean, if it did, he's doing pretty well so far. And yeah, it'd be interesting to see again if he how he tracks in a general election. Maybe the establishment digs up some kind of scandal. Maybe they already saw Cuomo was not going to win this thing, and they're saving some kind of huge bombshell for a write-in campaign or something in the general. There we go. There's that one obligatory super chat. So I thanks a lot for that. Maybe that gets everybody going. I say that all the time. Maybe that's the only one, but thanks a lot. Let's see. GOP Curtis Sliwa, percent chance of winning if Mamdani wins and Eric Adams takes votes. Can GOP win? Is the general election also ranked choice voting? I don't think it's ranked choice voting in the general, and that's the optimal scenario, right? To if you're looking to see Mamdani not win, but it's there's I'm not if you watch this channel, I'm not huge on the wide open speculation because it could go in so many directions. But I would say, I said a little bit ago, I would say Sliwa would have a 1% chance now with Mamdani in there. Because, yeah, there could be some antics with Eric Adams, maybe a write in. But I would say 1 to 2% chance. Now, that's not how much he was going to get in the general. I think he could get 25, 30% maybe. But to get above that 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 could be tough. And then to get 50, that seems like a huge mountain. It seems much more of a mountain than Mamdani had to climb to take down Cuomo here. That's what I think, but we'll have to reevaluate it in maybe a month and see what actually the fallout is. How much does the establishment just kind of rally around Mamdani? Do they kind of try to craft another scheme to not let him win the general? I don't know. A lot of times the establishment tends to hate their own side more, the fringes, we'll call them, than the other side. Maybe they'd be okay with Sliwa in there, some of them, because if Sliwa was in there, I mean, they had Giuliani in there, they had Bloomberg as a Republican. It's not impossible. They're not totally foreign to the concept of a Republican mayor because the city council could just pretty much override anything. There'll be a few appointments and so on, but it's going to come down to how much the establishment hates Mamdani. I really don't know what it is. I haven't followed the race super closely, but I'm sure they have some kind of contingency plan for this because it's going to be tough to imagine Bill Clinton coming out and saying, "Hey, Mamdani, vote for this guy." It's going to be tough for Cuomo to come out and Kathy Hochul, the governor, right? She gonna weigh in on this race? But yeah, hopefully that answers it a little bit. Um, yeah, these numbers haven't really changed a whole lot since the initial vote dump about an hour ago. Kind of similar. Let's see. Um, okay, more Kennedy talk. Every stream, there's no question. I'm going to learn something every stream, either the results or somebody mentions something in the chat, you know, some fact I just didn't know. That's how it goes. You're never going to know everything. You're never going to come close. Um, if Zoran wins and falters, does New York House have and governor in 26 become more competitive? Uh, yeah, I would say more than zero. Yeah, if there's an unpopular local politician in the major city like New York City, there's going to be ties to that for the midterms. It'd be a lot easier if it was Harris in the White House. Then there's no excuses. Then Republicans can go all in on Democrats having control of government. But now if Trump's in the White House, there's going to be a lot of focus on him. So it's going to be kind of a split for them to defend Trump at the top, but then also look at state government and possibly Mamdani, even though that's just one city, and try to have that have downstream effects on the governor's race or the U.S. House. Okay. Last time New York City had a competitive mayoral race was 2001 between Bloomberg and Green. Well, actually, 4 years ago, Eric Adams won by a tiny margin in the for Democrat in the primary. I want to clear that up. For the general, yeah, it was not competitive, but it's kind of tantamount to victory for the Democrats here, and it was very close. So last time Eric Adams did pull it out narrowly, and then of course, yeah, he blew out Sliwa in the general. Yeah, there were um, term limits. I think Bloomberg squeezed out one more term, something like that. He did 3 terms, something like that. Republican, independent. Remember he was big on that soda ban, the large cup sizes. That was a big thing at one point. Uh, Stream cut. Oh, is it not on? Is it? Hopefully, it's still up and running. I'm not noticing anything not working, but if anything was cut off, let me know. But yeah, again, yeah, appreciate that super chat. Have I done a video about the wig party? No, I'm not, the farther back you go, the less interested I'm going to be, and also the less knowledge as well. Try to keep it pretty, pretty current, with recent elections. The last one, of course, we're still analyzing 24, but, and then want to look ahead a little bit to what's coming up next. But politics, it's so wide ranging that going back to the earlier eras. That's going to be more for kind of historical channels, I would say. And Mr. Beat, I'm sure a lot of people check his videos out. He's gonna be better for that type of thing. Okay, and stream did not cut off. Device issues. Gotcha. Jewish vote likely to vote for Adams. Yeah, this normally you'd think this is it. Whoever wins this is the mayor, but there's crazy dynamics in this race. 89% in here. And yeah, it hasn't changed much. This is kind of the same opening results. Let's see if we've got any news updates. All right. Under the city's ranked choice voting system, the race is unlikely to be called tonight. Even if Mamdani holds his current lead, the Board of Elections will reallocate the votes of lower performing candidates next Tuesday, which will give us a final result. That's kind of what I was saying. They've got to get somebody over 50%, and that looks like it's not happening tonight. Spirits are high at the Mamdani election night watch party. Okay. More than 3/4 of the first ballot votes in. Mamdani's lead is indicative of larger voter concerns for many New Yorkers or younger voters, those dissatisfied with national politics. Mamdani represents change. All right. Cuomo, gap is too big to close. General election will not use ranked choice voting. That's talked about that a few minutes ago. It will be larger and more competitive. As candidates, Eric Adams. On the ballot, we're sending Andrew Cuomo back to the suburbs. Yeah, I did put out a poll, I think, at the end of last year on the community tab about what's going to happen in this primary with Andrew Cuomo. Is he going to run? Is he going to run and lose, or is he going to run and win? And most people, I think, said he was going to run and win. And now we know. So much changes in politics. Sometimes real quick, but sometimes it doesn't change. I try to present different scenarios for people to consider. But yeah, it looks like it's over here for three-term governor Andrew Cuomo. It's always going to be hard to come out there and give that concession speech. How do you think the Detroit mayoral elections are going to go? Well, I haven't, I haven't looked into that race much. Mike Duggan, of course, running for governor, so it's going to be open. But there's a lot of cities out there, a lot of races, especially for mayor, and it'd just be too hard to really look way into all of them, especially when I'm trying to make videos and follow everything else and stay more up to date with the more national or statewide elections. So I might look at it as time goes on. If anything develops, I'll pay more attention to it. Like this race here, it got close, so it was worth taking a look at. Hochul hasn't said anything. Okay, yeah, I bet she probably hasn't yet, but she's gonna have to. Okay. Second round could get it for Mamdani, says NBC News. Eisenhower was the last Republican to win all counties in your home state of Maryland. Okay, that is interesting. Um, it's a pretty blue state, but it has gone red. somehow in 88, even 1988, if you check out my other videos. A lot of videos out there if you are a regular viewer or new to the channel. Ton of content, huge variety of different things. So dig in, well over 1,000 videos. And some of them not too bad either. Uh, okay. Mr. Beat is the GOAT. Okay. Yeah, I guess that's probably what it might be. A lot of Kennedys, but not a lot of grandsons. Okay. Yeah. If I if I'm really bored, I might look up the Kennedy family tree at some point if I'm just sitting around someday. Did you think you'd win by this much? Well, I got to see the final results, but probably not. The energy did seem to be on Mamdani's side. That was not shocking, but it's hard. It's always hard to underestimate the establishment. Uh, the precinct map, yeah, here it is. If that helps you out. Um, okay, why is Andrew Epstein reporting this? That I'm not sure. Mom Donnie really bungles things. Would it affect the gubernatorial race? Well, I touched on that a few minutes ago, and yeah, I mean, it's a major city. Whoever the mayor is could have an impact on the governor's race. That's reasonable that it could have some impact. Now, a ton of impact, probably not a ton unless it was some dramatic thing, but a little bit seems fair enough. Will Sliwa improve on his 21-point margin with Zoran as the Dem nominee? If so, by how much? Here, let's actually let's take a look at that. We need the here we go. Eric Adams in the general, 67% Sliwa, 27.8. So what is that, like a 39-point margin for Adams? So if that's the margin we're talking about, yeah, he could go up, maybe tops 30 then. That could happen. But the 21, I'm not sure what the 21 is, but Lander is at 11%, 11.4. Yeah, his arrest, I that seems forgotten about. But I guess it's easy to say if you're not in the city. I mean, maybe there people are talking about it. Maybe it had some impact. Doesn't seem like it though. It'd be interesting to see if Cuomo or Mamdani got arrested. How would that have affected anything? ETN projected Mamdani the winner. Okay. You think Mike Rogers will do better or worse in 26? Well, a lot of that's going to come down to the national environment for Michigan. But generally, I would think a little worse because I would think the environment would benefit the Dems a little bit more. But again, that's coming off, that's more than a year out. But that's what I would say. Rogers probably would lose by 2 or 3 points instead of less than a point or whatever the margin was. It was very close. think it might have even been less than half a point. But that's where I'm at. But, that's close. So Rodgers could win. I don't think he would lose by 9 or 10 points, but it all depends. Long way to go. He has to get through that primary first, though, too. Uh, all right, let's go back to the. All right, well, we could keep up the precinct map, I guess, for a little while. Wondering if Cuomo wind up running with his fight and deliver party now that he's looking to lose. I'm not familiar with that, but has Cuomo made any statement? I'm guessing not, or they would have covered it here on New York Times. Okay. Energy has been high for Mamdani throughout the day. Okay, the sole Cuomo surrogate is circulating at his election night party, struck an optimistic tone. She noted the early vote results were not indicative of the entire city, particularly immigrant communities who had not yet adapted to early voting. The results we'll see tonight paint a very. Oh, but this is 5 minutes ago. Is this current? Why would they put this out? This sounds like this is what she would have said an hour ago. I don't know. Uh, she said she supported ranked choice voting, open primary, stop partisanship issues throughout the country. Not even sure who we're talking about there, but Sarah Gomez. Yeah, nice to see you in the chat. I think Eric Adams will split the Democratic vote. Yeah, that could go either way. Again, if we go to Polymarket for the general election, here's what we've got. The last 6 hours, we'll say. Mamdani is high 70s. Eric Adams, 14. Cuomo at 8. Sliwa, 1.4. So, question marks remain here. If it was Cuomo, less question marks. But now that it's probably Mamdani, more questions. Yeah, what does the establishment do here? What is Gretchen Whitmer going to say about this? What's Josh Shapiro going to say? Harris, Andy Bashir, what are these people going to say? It's a good question. Uh, 21 margin as in 21 the year. Gotcha. Okay. So yeah, I think I covered that. I think he can improve on that. He could. Now that's Mamdani, I would think he stands to do a few points better. That would take him around 30%. But but then that's kind of if it was a two-way race. But now if we throw in Eric Adams, then that's probably going to keep Sliwa down a little bit. I don't know how much attention Sliwa's even going to get. And we still got to see what Cuomo's going to do. Let's see. 38 states are less populated than New York City. 38 states. That's interesting. It's about what you need to ratify a constitutional amendment. Cuomo did almost get removed by the legislator. Yeah, a lot of scandals for Cuomo, nursing homes and sexual harassment or whatever it is. But people people get tired of certain politicians. They might win by huge margins, but eventually, the political winds will change directions. Could California be competitive? Yeah, because Newsom's unpopular and the race could end up GOP versus GOP. Ooh, that I don't think would happen. Two GOP in the top two primary. Uh, I mean, that would have to be a massively crowded field, and Democrats totally not coalescing around anybody, and two Republicans squeeze in. That seems less likely to me than a Republican actually just winning against a Democrat in a general election. I think that's also totally unlikely because it's California. But there could be, like I just said, political winds changing in that state. I mean, decent amount of movement toward Trump in the last election. I don't think that means a ton going forward. If we see that again in another election, the midterms, then there could be some there for sure. Could happen anyway. But Republican governor there is probably, it's very unlikely, but it's not impossible. Governor is really never impossible. Some states have these huge droughts, like I've covered in some of my videos, the political droughts for the governor and Senate president. But I think Republicans, they could get it under 10 points. It's going to be an open seat. But for right now, it's way too early. I'm not sure even what's going on there. Chad Bianco, he was maybe the potential front runner a month ago. That's not saying a whole lot. Plenty of time for people to get into that race. But if a Republican could be competitive there, I don't think it's going to show this early. I think, again, it would help a lot if Trump wasn't in the White House. That could help it in California. I would think that would help a Republican win there, but I don't. I'm going to see what we're going to see what happens with that race. But two Republicans in the general, that's way low on my radar. Okay. Unless every Republican aside from Dahlia and Bianco drop out, the Democratic candidates swell number. Yeah, okay. I guess I just kind of covered that. Brian Chavez, how's your Tuesday going? It's going all right. Got a nice stream going, and nice to see everybody here. Lantern made a statement about 10 minutes ago predicting Mom Donnie is the winner. All right. The bar is so low that Cuomo is the best option for the Dems. Gotcha. Saying about Murkowski in a big interview she would do. Oh yeah, I did hear about that. Was that yesterday or the day before? I did. Yeah, she said she might caucus with the Dems if they picked up 3 seats. Yeah, that's wild. Murkowski is. I mean, that is pure establishment, right? Alaska. She won that write-in campaign. There's another example. Lisa Murkowski won the write-in campaign for U.S. Senate. Uh, Joe Miller, was that? I think that was the guy. But then they got the ranked choice. I don't know. I don't know how much more time she's gonna have there in Alaska. But would Andy Bashir need to make any comment on an out-of-state mayoral election? Well, he doesn't need to, and it's not really gonna matter. But I think if somebody asked him, he should say something about it. That's a little bit more than generic. He's a nice guy, but I don't know. I have a hard time picturing Bashir answer a little bit more tough questions on some more divisive issues if there's going to be an excited base. I don't know if Bashir would be the right guy, but the same thing about Shapiro. Shapiro's a nice guy, but I guess it's really tough to say. Tough to know what voters are going to be thinking during the next election. But at least Shapiro is from a highly significant state. Bashir, impressive, but kind of an inconsequential state. Okay, Cuomo is conceded. Is that right? Okay, Rando. Well, if you're here, have a good night. Skeptical of Cuomo or others after breathless coverage of third parties. Let me see if I can get the news about Cuomo conceding. It's kind of weird if he concedes right after his surrogate says he can win. Okay, Cuomo called Mamdani, congratulated him. There you go. You're gonna get the gracious stuff, but what happens in next week or in 2 weeks? Tonight was not our night. That's it. Cuomo, he's called a career. That's it. Well, I did put out a community poll also for this race 2 days ago. I think Cuomo was in the lead by a little bit, but now we know that Mamdani, that's it. Allies of President Trump are already gearing up to turn Mamdani into a national figure to attack and tether to other Democrats ahead of the midterms. Yeah, that's politics right there. Anybody looks at all, even if any candidate's going to get that. But if anybody looks like they're outside the mainstream at all, which is going to be Mamdani, that could be good or bad, depending on how you look at it. But Trump gearing up to use that in the midterms. Cuomo campaigned on his decades of experience and need for a strong leader to manage the city's crises. Mamdani emphasized ambitious, albeit untested, ideas and called for generational change in the party. Yeah, he is, let's see, 33 years old. That's that is very, very young. That's extremely notable. So yeah, I would guess it's not going to just be totally smooth sailing into the general election. We'll let the dust settle. We'll get the final results. We'll see what happens over the next few weeks. Yeah. Kansas, Kentucky, GOP heavy, Dem governors. Yep, there are some states that have that crossover. Kevin Faulconer, California. I remember that name. Somebody who's never gone with 500 miles in New York City. I was oddly invested in this primary. Hey, that's that's how you do it. That just shows you've got some interest in politics. Just exciting races in general. That's what I'm into. I like to see what happens. You could have no actual connection to the city whatsoever. You can have no interest in the candidates, but hey, you can still understand the significance and want to see what happens. And yeah, again, not much has changed since the initial vote dump. I mean, this is kind of similar to where we were at like an hour and a half ago. If abortion was not the top issue in 22, the midterm results have been different. Yeah, it does seem like that issue gave Dems, it blunted their losses. And as much as the Dems hate that ruling, they kind of like it only as far as how it seemingly helped them a little bit in the midterms. But yeah, it would seem like they would have lost a couple more governors in that election, probably another few House seats, maybe another Senate seat. I'd have to double check on some of the numbers. But yeah, I think that issue, that was a huge thing. And now it seems like it's not talked about that much. I said eventually it's going to fizzle out. Seems like it kind of did. It could come back up, but for now, it's not really one of the big issues. Murkowski wants to leave legacy. Could be her last couple of years. Uh, yeah, I mean, I guess, but they had a chance to just vote for Harris in the last election, and they still double digits for Trump. So yeah, that could say uh, more about Harris, maybe, but we'll have to see how would Vance do in a state like Alaska against a standard Democrat, because Vance should not have that whatever baggage Trump has in terms of legal and some of the other issues. Vance should not have that, but he also would not have the established cultural connection that Trump has to turn out voters. But anything could happen. There's a million question marks. Uh, Comment from Andrew Cuomo's speech. Cuomo applauds Mamdani for a really smart campaign. Tonight is his night. He deserved it. He won. Gotcha. Forget the prediction you had before. Next Senate midterms will be coalitions and suspicious of her being more independent. It was true. More independents to run. Yeah, I mean, independents have an appeal in theory. I guess it it's kind of like where when it's a named Democrat or Republican against a generic opponent, a lot of times the generic opponent has a good chunk of support. Sometimes they're leading because in the abstract, it's kind of appealing to vote outside the two party system. But as what usually happens, the independent support fizzles or crumbles. And by the time the actual election rolls around, but yeah, independence, I think it depends on the issues. I'd like to see some candidates that have just clear crossover views on certain things, way more than we have now. Seems like you can't get that. As soon as there's one view that's goes against the grain, then those candidates are kind of disowned by the establishment. I think most Americans have views that are on both sides, depending on what the issue is. I don't think anybody, very few people, I should say, are just locked into every single issue on one side or the other. If there's 40 or 50 different issues out there, it's tough to say you agree with every single one of them on that side. Most Americans are going to have some that cross over. If Mamdani wins, which is likely in the general, he would be the youngest mayor elected. Well, yeah, I would have to see if that's true. Sounds like it is. Sometimes you go way back in history, and sometimes mayors got elected in their 20s somehow back in the day. But I'm sure people are talking about that obviously already. Um, Cuomo concedes. All right. Back in 2017, most folks, even in their states, never heard of Stacey Abrams or Beto O'Rourke. Yeah, you're right. Mentioning it because focused on this race, probably big national stars coming. We'll get to know by fall of 26. Yeah, that's true. Mary Peltola could win governorship. She said she's eyeing it. Yeah, I think that would make it more competitive. Governor gives that out party a better chance to win. I've said they elected Bill Walker there, the independent. So there's a chance for Peltola. She's also coming off a fresh loss in the U.S. House. So I mention that frequently as well. Candidates that take losses, that come back and do it again. Sometimes it works, does happen. If the national environment changes, you could come back and take a win a couple years later. But a lot of times people think, hey, we didn't vote for you the first time. Why would we do it the second time? But yeah, if it's really close, I get it. But some people come back, they go run two times, back to back losses. You've got John James in Michigan, Stacey Abrams in Georgia, Beto O'Rourke. There's another one that was just mentioned. Which Republican would do best in the New York governor's race, in your opinion? Here's Stefanik and Lawler thrown. Yeah, those are the names that are thrown around. Uh, you know, without like going through a detailed view of their histories and where they stand on every issue, and just kind of trying to go by more of a vibe type thing, I would tend to think Stefanik would do a little bit better in the end. Um, but it's not a strong feeling. Zeldin last time seemed to be a pretty good candidate, actually. Even before the election, seemed like he was a good guy to go up against Hochul, even though it seemed like he wasn't going to win, and he didn't. But I know I think he ran against Andrew Giuliani in that primary, and but he pulled it out. And Hochul, if it's even Hochul, because hey, she is getting challenged by her lieutenant governor. Last I heard, so there's some vulnerability there for Hochul, but Stefanik, I just seems to be probably a little bit better, but who knows? Yeah, this current round is still going. We're at 91%. We're probably not going to get a whole lot more. These percentages haven't really budged as it is, as we've been streaming for about 2 hours. So, I'm not sure how long we're going to go, but we'll do a little bit more at least and see where things are at. If people are here and enjoying it, it's always nice to have a real time interaction and answer a bunch of questions, comments. There's some of them are compelling, some of them can't answer all of them, but let's see. Yeah, that in 22 Murkowski with the ranked choice. Yeah, that was interesting. They almost repealed it, extremely close on that repeal vote. It was extremely narrow when they passed the vote for ranked choice. So who knows what's going to happen with that? Uh, Murkowski on a publicity tour for her new book. Oh, hey, see, I'm unaware that she's got a book that she's peddling. So everybody's got a book, you know. Uh, Best person to beat Abbott, Henry Cuellar. You know that that does make some sense. Take the conservative Democrat who is kind of in danger in that district. He's got a little bit of baggage himself. That would be an interesting race. I totally understand from South Texas. get the Hispanic support, more conservative, could bring over some Republicans. But of course, progressives, not at all going to be a fan. So that'd be a fun race to watch. Let's see. You're hoping 27, get a more powerful progressive government in Chicago. All right. Yeah, I think I mentioned that earlier. As far as the mayor goes, yeah, that it seems like Johnson is it's such abysmal approval ratings. I don't even know if he's gonna could even run, but I think he would not win, we'll just say. But again, that's what I say about I've said that earlier about a lot of cities. Once you change leadership, there's a lot of long-standing problems in a lot of places. And sometimes somebody new gets in there and they're not going to solve everything. Now, there's different degrees of how unpopular you could get, but in Chicago, I know it is pretty low. Eric Adams is pretty low in New York City. Again, Karen Bass, L.A. I'm not seeing a lot of solid approval ratings for most of these places. I haven't heard about Barbara Lee's approval rating in Oakland, but if she's still kind of fresh, maybe it's okay. But a lot of mayors, it's tough. Cuomo concedes. Okay, yeah, I think we sort of covered that. Let's refresh this. See what we've got here. Okay. Oh, cacophonous cheers. There you go. There's a word you're not using every day. Probably even every other week. The cheers are up though. Pro Mom Donnie watch party. Champ breaks out, freeze the rent. Ooh, yeah, there's gonna be some. They're gonna have to figure things out there. Cuomo could still run as an independent in November. He has filed to run in November on an independent line he called Fight and Deliver. Okay, yeah, that was mentioned earlier. So that's the line he created just for ballot access, I'm guessing. Like I said, there's always a contingency plan for the establishment candidates. Cuomo has been unclear if he would run. Now, well, that's probably before tonight. Yeah, it might get a little clearer in a few days. Yeah, it's embarrassing stuff for Cuomo. He already resigned in disgrace, and now he takes another loss here a few years later. Let's see. A peculiarity of the New York history has Cuomo appearing to fall short in the Democratic primary on the 80th birthday of George Pataki, who beat Cuomo's father in '94. I mentioned that earlier too, but I don't know. Like, who cares that it's Pataki's 80th birthday? Like that is a weak connection in my opinion. But yeah, he did take down Cuomo for the fourth term, 1994. But happy birthday to George Pataki. Maybe that's what they're going for. Three-term governor himself. There'll be a non-negotiable amount of Cuomo primary voters. They'll pull the lever for Sliwa. Not enough to change the outcome, but it's not like Sliwa is far right or anything. Yeah, we've been talking about that all night. I wonder if Sliwa has made a statement. I'm sure he's enjoying this because his chances go up, but that's all relative. They're going to go up from no chance to almost no chance. But hey, that's just as of right now. Maybe in another month, some stuff happens, and Sliwa, he has like a 20% chance of winning or something. Still low, but not totally out of the question anymore. Let's see. Alaska right now is only 8% red, bare minimum. Can't imagine how much better environment could be later. Yeah, I don't know. I do think that state has gotten bluer, and I don't know how much bluer it's going to get, though. I'm just not sure. I know there's not a ton of, it's a tough state to poll. The polling there, it seems like, I think Trump has been underestimated in the polling there, whatever polling there is. So could it get under 10? I think on my best case scenario for Harris or Biden a year ago, maybe more, I think I put Alaska as likely, getting down to about high single digits. So yeah, it's not impossible. Something could happen there where it gets under 10, but again, that's still not flipping or anything for the foreseeable future. But we got to see what happens. Lee Zeldin almost beat Hochul by 5 points. Yeah, I think it was like 6 points or something. Close, but yeah, not that close at the same time. I mean, 5 or 6 points. That what can you say? You're going to take the moral victory on a much closer election than Cuomo had won by. Or, I mean, you got to take whatever you can get if you're the losing candidate. But even if it was a half a point, that's still a loss. But yeah, that would be kind of maybe recount territory, and that would be a lot more exciting because then it's an actual nail biter. If Cuomo conceded, does that mean Mamdani wins? I don't. I think officially, if they would count the votes and Cuomo has more of them, I still think Cuomo would win. Uh, but I think it's just kind of the sentiment that Cuomo is throwing in the towel, and that's it. But for all intents and purposes, then yeah, Mamdani is going to have won, and it's a formality to see what the final total is going to be in the other rounds. But we do want to see that. New Jersey Governor Jack seems to be off to a good start. Union endorsements. Yeah, I heard he got some. I'll look more into that once it gets closer into the fall to see where it's at. I'll take a look at any polls that come out. I saw he had his own. I think it was an internal or a poll that Chitterelli backed, and he was down by. Excuse me, he was down by a few points, something like that. It was low to mid single digits, close, but that was from his own campaign or backed by his own campaign. I think it should have really, again, he's kind of a candidate where this is his third run. He ran in 17, he ran in 21, and now he's running here in 25. He was the runner up in the primary in 20 and 17, and then he was the nominee in 21, and he did really come out of nowhere, got within 3.5 points, something like that, against Murphy. Very impressive stuff. But again, kind of like Zeldin, impressive is one thing, but winning is another. And I think he could pull it out. He's the underdog because the state is pretty blue, and yeah, I'm aware of how it shifted toward the right. There's no question in the presidential election, and that kind of blew everybody away for the most part. That came out of nowhere. But Mikey Sherrill seems like a reasonable candidate to win an election, but it's an open seat. Everybody knows Chitterelli at this point. They might be tired of him. That could hurt him. But yeah, if he's racking up union endorsements, I assume he could have to try to get some of that Hispanic support that maybe Trump was capitalizing on. He's going to have to run it up, South Jersey, etc. But as for the specifics, we'll see what happens. But now people are going to start to pay attention to that race, especially probably after the deeper into the summer. People are enjoying the weather, and then we've got holidays coming up. Post Labor Day, that's really the big kickoff. But maybe get something happening in July or August. But it should be close. I would not bet against Cheryl, but I wouldn't bet a whole lot on her until we see what happens. Because Chitterelli's going to have to navigate the Trump situation. He's got to get those voters, kind of like Glenn Youngkin pulled off in Virginia. But that time, Biden was in the White House. So he's got to get the Trump vote, but he can't just go all in and say he loves Trump and everything's perfect. That's not going to cut it. Anyway, you think Katie Hobbs will win re-election more narrowly? Hey, that's a possibility. Hobbs, she's vulnerable, but Republicans, I don't know. They don't seem to really have a knockout candidate. But I was surprised Hobbs even pulled it off the first time. It seemed like she was weak in the polling and she was not that great of a candidate. She didn't want to debate, but hey, look what happened. She pulled it out. Matthew McConaughey running for governor of Texas. Yeah, I think that this time and last time there was buzz about that, but I think he declined to run. Of course, he could change his mind. There's time left, but there was some as an independent. Um, yeah, maybe that's all for his own career in the movies. I don't know. Uh, I can't even think of what any of his super recent movies are the last year or two. Have to check on that, but that would be something if he ran. But looks like he's not going to do it. Oh yeah, it says he's not running. Okay, Gary Bass not popular. Could be a rematch. Rick Caruso, yeah, Caruso could even run for governor, I think. But yeah, a rematch for Bass that could be something. That seems maybe like the more likely matchup. Last time New York won a Senate race was 1992. El D'Amato, yeah, well, I'm sure that's in my video on the last time each party has won a Senate election in each state. 3 terms for D'Amato. Okay, polls underestimated Democrats, such in 22. Uh, yeah, I know I'd have to double check all the races, but yeah, that's why you can never take anything for granted. You don't want to get complacent. I think Republicans were thinking, hey, the abortion thing, it's not going to be that big of a deal. Biden is in the White House. He's unpopular. That's all they need to run on. Plus, inflation was really rampant way up at that point. And they thought they could just coast. I think both sides do think they can do that. They could just coast. Dems are going to think, hey, we don't need to really run on too much else aside from Trump is not awesome. He's bad. That's it, right? But you can't just say Biden is bad and Trump is bad. I mean, of course, sometimes it's gonna work, but there's always these exceptions to the standard narrative. Lawler will be the Republican nominee for governor. Him and Stefanik have not officially announced, unless I missed something. I don't think anybody's actually announced yet. I or anybody of note, any major candidates, I should say. If I had to pick, I would if Lawler and Stefanik were running in a primary, I would maybe lean toward Stefanik winning it. That's what I think, but that's really a super thin prediction. Maybe Pataki will come back. How about Pataki going for a fourth term at age 80? Let's see. Yeah, there's not a whole lot else here. Let's see. What are the updates? 9 updates. Uh, Mamdani is running it up in voter-rich pockets of Brooklyn and Queens. All right. Frank Carone, top advisor to Eric Adams, said in an interview he was prepared to take on Mamdani in the general election in November when Adams runs as an independent. We're not running against anyone. They're running against us. We're confident that when the time comes, Eric Adams will be reelected. Man, politicians, I mean, that's one requirement to being in politics. You've got to be confident in your own campaign and yourself. You can't come out there and say, yeah, I don't know if I can get it done. You got to come out there and say, oh no, we've got this thing in the bag. This thing is over. Bill de Blasio, guy. Actually forgot about him, which is maybe a little ironic considering the election here. Expressed joy at Mamdani's performance. Okay. Cuomo appeared to perform better in majority black districts, though turnout was lower. All right, that's something to consider. It could offer a look at places where Mamdani will need to grow his support. Okay, Cuomo confirmed he was conceding the primary, but still considering whether to run the general election. I mean, if somebody other than Mamdani is going to win, you can't have Cuomo and Adams in there and Sliwa. That's going nowhere. Okay, strong stinging rebuke. Yeah, I like the phrasing there. Stinging rebuke. One of the most prominent Democrats. Yeah. All right. Republicans did not wait for a call to begin using Mamdani to attack Democrats nationally. Um, signal yet how far left Democrats are, how far left and out of touch Democrats the party has become. All right, see if that sticks. All right, yeah. Let's see. Where was I? Man, Texas Republicans have to do a session to fix their bill. Uh, oh yeah, we're talking about redistricting there. Yeah, that's something to follow. We'll see what happens with that. That could be a big deal. Democrats are more divided. Republicans are more united with Ciattarelli. Oh, the Democrats are divided on Cheryl in New Jersey. I know there was a more of a competitive primary, but a post primary. Let's see. New Jersey is a toss up. Yeah, I think I have it at lean D. You know, it's semi competitive. It's not uncompetitive, especially after the election last time where Ciattarelli got close to Murphy out of nowhere and the last presidential election. D'Amato defeated Liberal Republican in 1980. Okay. Depending on Colin Allred, Beto O'Rourke, and James Talrico if they run in 26. Well, Talrico is the newer, younger potential candidate there, and he's untested, I guess. These other two have run statewide. So if you're looking for a younger, even a fresh voice, you'd go for Talrico. Now I'm not. It's too early. I'm not going to know where he's going to stand in all the issues, so I don't want to totally generalize his candidacy. But O'Rourke, I mean, that guy. I mean, he's not old, but he's got some losses. He had the right energy in 18 against Cruz, but it just the state was too red. But then he takes a huge loss to Abbott, and it's tough to think somebody should go back out there a third time after two losses, and not it's not like it's 20 years apart either. This is less than 10 years, and all red. He seems like kind of an okay guy for suburban appeal. He doesn't seem like he's super exciting. Like O'Rourke seems to have more energy, but he took a loss to Cruz, who almost lost in 18, got close. He has a pretty impressive win here back in November. So all red, I don't think all red should run again. He should not. And O'Rourke again, two losses at least. Count president, there's more. He should not run again either. So yeah, this James Talrico guy, I don't know a whole lot, but I've heard his name thrown around. Of those three, probably worth having him take a crack at it if you're the Democrat. But then we just saw the astronaut announce his candidacy in Texas. I think that was yesterday or the day before. Terry Virts, he seems like he's making a run there against Cornyn or whoever the Republic. Maybe it's Paxton. All right, so where were we? Uh, Matthew McConaughey runs is a handsome crat. I haven't heard that one. Is that above Mamdani or we were talking about that earlier. You think Bernie Sanders could have beaten Trump in 16? That's a fair question. It's great. Yeah, probably. I would say it's more likely than not. I can't say, oh yeah, absolutely. I'm not gonna. Some people are so confident in something that can never be proven, but probably Hillary just seemed to have the wrong kind of energy, and Bernie had the right kind of energy. But it's also tough to say what the establishment would do if it was Bernie in there, because there's already a lot of smears. Once you're outside the establishment, you get the smears, you get all kinds of weird stuff. So I don't know, but just with what we know, I would say it's a little more likely Bernie would have won. Doubt Adams will be reelected. Primal B, nice to see you here. Okay. If doubts he'd win, considering Bernie couldn't beat Hillary in 16. Uh, okay. Uh, Last time Republicans almost won California was 2010 for Attorney General. Yeah, now that you mention it, I do think yeah there was something close like that for one of those races. But if that's what it is, yeah, that's pretty funny. But yeah, in that red wave of 2010, Republicans did nothing in the Senate and for governor. Jerry Brown comes back, and the Senate was not competitive. Meg Whitman, I think, took the loss. Or that was for governor, but I think that maybe that was the Carly Fiorina race then for Senate. something like that. But yeah, that it's been a little while there since Schwarzenegger in 2006 pulled off that re-election. I hope O'Rourke declines to run. Yeah, that comment about the guns, I don't know how much it holds up today, but yeah, that was not a good look for a general election. At this point, it was kind of a while ago, but okay, Harris 46, Cooley 45.3. Wow, that could have been the end of Harris right there. Toward Texas, Dems need a more charismatic candidate. Allred did well, but O'Rourke best run charismatic more than policies. Policy is going to take you so far. Deep red areas. Yeah, it's always tough to discuss how can the out party win in an area that is not conducive for their success. You know, how can a Republican win in California? How can a Democrat win in Texas? I mean, there's things you can come up with to trim a little off the edges to make it more competitive if you change some of their views. But even if they had drastically different views, a lot of it is just people vote for the party, a lot of party voters. It comes down to for the out party to win, you're going to need really to have a national environment in your favor. You need to have a weak opposition, a strong, charismatic challenger, and hopefully you're going to have the out party, or actually in those states it'd be the in party, the dominant party. You're going to hopefully they're going to have some kind of a scandal, and that's if all that stuff lines up, then there could be a change, and you could see something happen. But aside from that, in not the huge states, Kansas, Louisiana, you do get the out party winning elections for governor. It can happen. Massachusetts, Maryland, Larry Hogan, you get this stuff sometimes. In these huge states, though, New York, California, Texas, and probably Florida now, it is going to be tough for the other party to win, but that's still their best bet. They need everything to line up for them. Jerry Brown coming back from the dead 25 years after being governor was such an odd occurrence. Yeah, that was something. He has, I think, the second longest, maybe one of the few longest gaps between governor stints. Now that's I have a blog post on my blog covering that. I think he's up there at it's way into the 20s, if not the high 20s. I can't remember off the top of my head, but you're right. He was out of governor for a long time. But he was also attorney general, something like that, right? Okay. Loved by base isn't just about Trump supporters. O'Rourke is still really beloved by the base or grassroots of the rank and file of voters in Texas, Democratic voters in Texas. He probably is. I don't know. He has. There is an appeal. I can understand an appeal with O'Rourke and Democrats in that state. He does have energy. He he has. I guess if there's a look to have, he has a look. He has energy, and he fired up a lot of people. But now that he took the losses, his brand is damaged. But I can understand the appeal. He's kind of like the fighter for Dems in Texas, but he's kind of out of office too. So I don't know. And he really only won in that El Paso district. which is deep blue. I hope he declines too because he doesn't have whatever it takes to become. Yeah, he's sometimes that wins. Like Wes Moore in Maryland he's a nice guy. Andy Bashir is a nice guy in Kentucky. I don't see them as fighters. Sometimes it works though. But Allred, yeah, he's O'Rourke definitely would fire me up more than Allred in terms of personality. Cooley was DA for LA. Harris DA for SF. North versus South California. Okay. Right now, LA has independent Republican DA. Okay. Gotcha. California elected on name recognition or really loud outrage. If any candidate wants to win, they need both. Kamala only has one bare minimum, and she has another. Gavin and people don't like that. Yeah, I mean, her name ID is it's super high. She leads a lot of the 28 ballots for president, and for governor, she's leading a lot of those polls. But I think I would suspect that would change once things actually heated up. You never know though. Maybe she just clears the field for governor and just that's it. I don't think so, but let's see. Ronald Reagan beat Jerry Brown's father, Pat Brown, in 1966. Yeah, that's going back a ways. I do remember. Yeah, Pat Brown was governor. Jerry Brown's dad. That is notable. And then yeah, Reagan was in there, and he beat his father. Yeah, that it's always good to hear that those kinds of political defeats. It's always fascinating. You have no dog in here, but you think Cuomo would have been a better mayor. All right, that's fair. Maybe it's the tons of governmental experience. Maybe it's just all about experience, and maybe it's about policy for you. Maybe it's personality. Everybody has different motivations for voting or supporting a candidate. You have a bad feeling Paxton could be in the lead against Terry Verts in polling. Yeah, I think a lot of people don't know who Terry Verts is really, but we'll see. The Paxton thing is interesting. I kind of think maybe Wesley Hunt might kind of take off a little bit if he gets in, if he's serious. He could be maybe that bridge between Cornyn and Paxton. It's just a possibility. Nathan Sage in Iowa. Yeah, there's some buzz there, but is he going to emerge as just the guy, the consensus pick for the Dems? He might be like the Dan Osborne in Nebraska, but actually a Democrat. And we've got to see what happens with Ernst. Is she actually going to get a real primary challenger? Because, yeah, it's Iowa. It's not, you know, Wyoming. It's not impossible the Democrats could win here, but looking at the recent results, it does look like a kind of a steep climb, much steeper than not for the Dems. Getting the base out, rank and file is important, but O'Rourke didn't really have cross-sectional appeal. Yeah, there's not much of that. I would probably agree. Uh, Paxton versus generic Democrat is leading. Yeah, there's a good example we talked about earlier. Yeah, generic Dem, even in like Texas. Yeah, there's might be appeal with that. over Paxton. But once the election rolls around, it'd be tough for me to think that would hold. But Paxton does have baggage. You got that impeachment and everything. Republicans have been saying she's weak. What should worry her is losing to Mamdani. More reactionary candidate. Was that about Joni Ernst? I'm not that one. Let's see. 28 could be 2 vice presidential candidates. Yeah, Harris Vance. That could be. Probably not. Vance much more likely than Harris. Harris, I'm not seeing it, but it's in the realm of possibility, of course. All right. Let's see. What have we got here? Public Advocate Jumaane Williams, 71. Comptroller. Here's all the other races. There's not a whole lot, but yeah, let's see. What about in the city council? Anthony Weiner, 10%. And the markets, let's see, what's the last update? 99. Anything going on in the general? Mamdani looks like he's ticked down slightly. Eric Adams has been up a little. Sliwa is now under 1%. Cuomo at 6. So still some unknowns here. Now we've also got somebody was asking about Buffalo mayor. And it looks like that one has been called. Sean Ryan. Can't say I followed this race, but there you go. 46.5%. Now we've got some special elections here. All right, this one is 100% in. 11-point win here for the Democrat. I believe that's a hold. That's in New Hampshire. I think this is another hold here in Alabama. State Senate. Massive total blowout here for the Republican. And I think that's what we've got for the other races. Oh, okay. So anyway, we'll probably go for just a bit more here because it's kind of over with. We'll wrap it up in the next maybe 20 something minutes. Well, that'll be about a 3-hour stream. Let's see, we've got 33 people here. If you're actually paying attention to the audio, great to have you here for this primary, even though it's pretty much over. We're still trying to do a bit of a community hangout, talk about different political candidates and races and some issues. What do you think about the VA gubernatorial race? Probably gonna be Spanberger. You know, that's the easy call because Trump Republicans are in federal power, and you know usually the out party is going to be motivated to come out. It's not a guarantee. Sears, you know, she did win statewide, lieutenant governor. That's something. Spanberger, she's been training for this. She didn't run for re-election in the House for this. Seems like a good candidate on that side. Sears, even if she, I think it's just too early, but the polling has been definitely favoring Spanberger for the most part. But I don't think Spanberger is going to win by 12 points or something like that. I mean, there's been some that have been slam dunks. I would say it's the betting markets have Spanberger. I think it might be over 90 cents now. I would say it's probably 80% chance it goes for Spanberger, but maybe it looks different in 2 months. My last prediction, I think the last update was about, I think around, right around 5 points for Spanberger. But everybody's just making stuff up. It's their best guess. But that state has gotten a lot bluer over the past 20 years. So it should be a pickup for the Dems, but we'll give it a little bit more time, see if there's debates and what the environment is like in a few months. Nathan Sage, harsh language. Oh, if there's like harsh language outside of um, just energizing people, then if you're talking about if you said something explicit or whatever, then yeah, I don't think I've heard about that at all. But if it's just he's energizing people, that could help him out. But yeah, I'd have to go through and see the specifics of what he has said. I watched his campaign launch video. Seemed fine. He's gonna try to sound like he has a broad appeal. It's what you got to do if you're the underdog in a state like that. What happens when a famous celebrity jumped in a governor's race? Famous YouTuber, even more reactionary candidate Kamala Harris to governorship, probably going to be very hard. Yeah, I think she would fall once it actually got going because the Democrats, they they've got ammo against her. They could easily say, "What are you doing? You're coming back to California? You didn't do anything in the last election. So now you're going to come back here and just be governor?" There's going to be pushback, and she's vulnerable because before she became the nominee, it seemed like she was kind of a weak candidate as vice president. I just her approval rating was low. I thought her personality was just not really there. Now you might disagree, but I didn't see a lot of it. It's 68. The last time two VPs went against each other. Nixon and Humphrey. Okay. 68. Let's see. Yeah, you're probably right. I would have to check, but let's hope that's right. Uh, Verge should get more attention due to his tension. Same with Talrico runs, even though neither Republican or Democrat. Okay. You just got here. Well, it's pretty much Cuomo conceded. Mamdani is gonna win, but he's not at 50% yet. They've got to tabulate the ranked choice voting. That could take days. So Mamdani pulls off the political shockwave. Eric Adams, his chances go up a little bit as an independent candidate. That's pretty much where we're at. Cuomo wiped out. He blew it. But it's not official till we get the somebody over 50%, even though Cuomo has already thrown in the towel. Uh, so I'm focusing on the nicknames for Beto O'Rourke. Yeah, Robert Francis O'Rourke. I remember that. Buffalo has different rules. Okay. Last time a Democrat won Alabama, 17. Yeah, that was the Doug Jones, Roy Moore thing. Yeah, that was also in my video on the last time Democrats won in every state for U.S. Senate. What do you think of the 26th Iowa race in general? Well, on this topic, well, I kind of covered that a little bit ago. I think that Ernst is vulnerable in a primary. Now, in the general, it's tough to say how strong she'd be in a general, but she's got some vulnerability. She would be running for a third term. Kind of came out almost of nowhere in 14. She wasn't favored at the beginning, but in the end, she was favored in the polling and she kind of pulled it out. Now, she was underestimated a little bit in 2020 when she beat Teresa Greenfield, if I'm correct. And I think she'd probably win in a general election anyway. But the Democrats, yeah, like I said, they know this is not Wyoming. They can put up a candidate and maybe get it within five. That shouldn't be crazy to get it under five. Now, to get it, flip it, it's going to be tough because we know this state has gotten pretty red. Republicans know there's a lot of Trump voters there, but they can't think that they're going to automatically win. They're going to have to run something. So I think the Dems are probably, if they're going the Dan Osborne route, getting more of a kind of a blue collar, somebody that has a, just like an everyman type of persona. Maybe that's the way to go. Doesn't mean they're going to win. And there could be vulnerabilities with Sage. I haven't looked way into it. But, and if Bus, I think there's other candidates in the race, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe they just expressed interest and have not declared. Now, as for the other races, Virginia, Florida, well, I mean, Virginia should pretty easily go for the Dems. Florida should pretty easily go for the Republicans. I mean, if Glenn Youngkin gets in Virginia, yeah, then we're talking about a different race. I'd still say he's the underdog, but it's at least an actual race then against Mark Warner. In Florida, probably Ashley Moody against, I don't know who it would be for the Dems exactly yet. There's a few names thrown around, but I'm kind of tired of underestimating Republicans in Florida. So I think that Moody seems like a decent candidate. She'd probably win. Could even be by double digits. You never know. I mean, DeSantis pulls off 19 points in his reelection. That's way above what I was expecting. And the House race is, yeah, it's kind of a little early. Have to have some specifics. There's so many of them. There's way too many to really follow closely as well. You have a good night then, Sarah Gomez. You taking off? Appreciate you stopping by. I know we see you in a lot of streams. We'll probably see you next time. In a hypothetical, who would win, Peter Griffin or Homer Simpson? Wait, for president? Uh, probably Homer Simpson. In Rhode Island, probably Peter Griffin. Who do you think will win Arizona governor's race? Until I see Republicans coalesce around a candidate, I'm going to say Hobbs is going to barely still have the edge by a tiny margin. That's a low confidence prediction. I think she could lose, but I gotta keep it on Hobbs for now until I see what Republicans are actually going to do. Biggs, probably going to be Biggs as of right now, but you never know. I don't know how strong he really is going to be in a general. I don't think he's some kind of a rock star candidate, but I don't think Hobbs is either. I don't think she's close. That's going to be a big one, though. Few big governor's races: Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, The indie rock band The Strokes reformed her New York City mayor candidate Maya Wiley. No, I did not. That's totally news to me. That sounds like it's not something I would remember or pay attention to exactly. But maybe it's more notable and I should know about it. I'm not sure. When will the next stream be? Well, if nothing else, election day is the goal. But you never know what could happen in 4, 5, 6 months. Who knows if I'm doing the channel or if something comes up. But that's the goal. Before that, I've got nothing that I can think of. But something could come up, but it's unlikely. Again, if there's more demand for the streams, if people are pouring in, if people are, you know, joining the channel, that's always the thing. If people are joining, I've got the Patreon set up. If people want to pile in on there, if people want to throw a bunch of super chats, I'd probably think, man, I should figure out a way to get on here more often. So that could build up in the future, but it's easiest to get on here when there's a primary or election happening. Because if I get on here and there's nothing happening, much less likely people want to show up just to look at nothing. At least this, we could put up the results while we're talking here. So we've got 18 people. So we're probably in the next 10 minutes, we're going to kind of wrap it up as a little bit more of a vote dump comes in. But I think we had a good one here. 3 hours. We got enough of a result. But we definitely have questions about the general election here in New York City. It should be Mamdani. If I had $100 to bet, I would do that on Mamdani. If I was forced to bet, I would not bet though. But I don't know. It'd be crazy to think Mamdani is gonna not win after this. But who knows? So yeah, I hope everybody's having a great night, enjoying the stream and whatever else you've got going on. So I think we're on the wind down portion, but I think we covered a ton of ground here. Basically answered the vast majority of questions, some of them more constructive than others, but hopefully you got something out of the stream. You learned some fact or something. Well, yeah. It's always good and bad when I get to the end of catching up on the chat. It's good that I caught up. It's bad that it dried up and there's nothing left. So, well, Zoran Mamdani is the big winner here. He pulled it off, and 2 months ago it seemed impossible. Before this, it seemed within the realm of possibility, and he did it. Stream every now and then, doing hypotheticals. Yeah, I know that's an idea. It is. How are people? What's going to cause people to show up? Is the question. Sometimes I do the streams for the primaries, and there's not a whole lot of people in there for that. So if I got on there just to do some sort of hypothetical, I don't know how many people would be there for that. It doesn't seem like there'd be a huge draw just for this channel, just for a specific video like hypotheticals or campaign trail. That's why it's good to do the primary and the community hangout at the same time. If the channel had 10, 15, 20,000 subs and there were 400 or 500 people in here, yeah, I think I'd probably want to get on here more often. I want to do something at least once a month. And if it was really huge, I'd want to do it weekly or something. If people were there, you got to try to make it happen. You lived in New York City during 21 to now. You'd vote for Andrew Yang in 21 primaries and Mamdani in the 25. So you did vote for them? Okay. Oh, if you lived. Sorry. Missed the key word there. If. Yeah, Yang, he was like the front runner for a little while last time, and then he just, I think, I don't know, the establishment, I think there was some smears. I think it just fell apart. Chances Adams or Sliwa winning, I can't imagine either happening, but it would be closer. Uh, well, the answer I could give is going to be the poly market odds. Adams is at about 20, Cuomo 6, Sliwa 1. Yeah, Sliwa's chances would go up. They would go way up from 1% if it was just Sliwa against Mamdani. Then they would maybe go up to 10%, I'd say, for right now. But with these other two potential candidates here, certainly Adams is going to be more likely to win than Sliwa because at least Adams is a former Democrat. He's known as a Democrat. Sliwa, Republican in New York City. You're not going to get too far with that these days. Yeah, some Dems might stay home, but not enough. And what have we got here for the last updates? Is this it? Okay. Mamdani's apparent victory is compared to AOC's victory over Joe Crowley in 18. All right. That's it. So we're going to wrap this up here in the next couple of minutes. Seems like we're all caught up on everything. So probably seems like a good time to wind it down here as it's all over basically. Zoran Mamdani, the progressive candidate, is pretty much the apparent winner for nominee for the Dems and for New York City mayor. But more questions for the general. We'll give it a couple of weeks or whatever, maybe a month. We'll see if anything really takes shape here, or if it's just going to be Mamdani all the way. But it is a big shakeup. It's a big shakeup. And who knows? It could be big blowback when he gets in there. Like I said earlier, mayors come into blue cities and they're not super popular. A lot of issues there. There's also the city council they have to deal with. It's a tough job. I would not want it. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, they're going to have to go to the additional rounds, at least two, probably more than that. But they'll do that. It'll be final, I guess, probably several days or Tuesday, whatever it says. But it's all but over for Cuomo, and Mamdani is the winner. Big news. Establishment takes a loss. So I think unless there's a last minute super chat or anything, I do want to encourage everybody to like and share and subscribe. You could join, you could get on Patreon. There should be a link down below. And it's Been a nice stream. They were going to kind of wind it down here. And that's pretty much it. Appreciate everybody turning out. Tried to cover the results and do a community hangout. So I think that's going to be it. So thanks for watching, everybody. This concludes the New York City mayoral primary. Have a great night. We'll see you next time.